Hello, 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 I'm Tootight Lautrec, and welcome back to the Shakey Sonnet Show. We're here once again in the Sonnetarium at the bottom of the down staircase in the permanently sequestered remainders section of an unnamed local library which may or may not have some lines couchant on the steps, just sitting there, just maybe waiting, maybe smoking a cigarette, waiting for a third to saunter by for a little afternoon delight. Who knows? May or may not is the key phrase. So last time in the Shakey Sonnet Show, we looked at Sonnet 40. And we looked at it all by its lonesome because it is such a good poem. Confusing? Sure, maybe, but it just sounds so good. It's got a nice beat and it's easy to dance to. But because the sense of it gets a bit twisty-turny, it does leave us wondering, if we were to read it all by itself, what the heck is going on? And even if we were to read it in the context of the 39 sonnets that have gone before, also, what the heck is going on? I will say that the ever-shifting, dizzying effect of all the different meanings of love, which appears 10 times in the one poem in Sonnet 40, leaves us with that dizzying effect, perhaps because it's reflective of a real-life situation, if one were to be in a love triangle, of having too many irons in the pot, so to speak. Infidelity, it turns out, is a mess. So Sonnet 40 highlights the dangers of following every passing passion that flits and flirts and flies past one's nose or lower. And Sonnet 41 and 42 answer a few of the questions raised by Sonnet 40, or the big question, what is going on? And they seem to do it pretty clearly. And if I could spin my triangles to illustrate, I would, but I can't, so I won't. But, you know, love triangles. Get it? So Sonnet 41 and 42 are all about that green-eyed monster jealousy. While reading Sonnet 40 is a bit like having an orgy on a spinning bed in a mirror-covered room, Sonnets 41 and 42 are blessedly straightforward. The whirligig of passion that we saw in 40 slows down to 41 and 42 to give us a much more reasoned, much more logical relation of events, and they deliver a concise and finely wrought picture of a complex situation. And then we realize that it's not actually a threesome. It's more of three sets of twosomes, hence the jealousy aspect. So three sets of twosome with intersecting points, or intersecting points, I suppose. So let's dive in and see if we can perhaps square that triangle. So Sonnet 41 is at once an excuse of the infidelity and kind of a snarking blaming of the dirty, rotten cheat. And the gist of it is, how dare you cheat on me with someone with whom I'm cheating on you, you dirty, rotten rat. How very dare you? And we'll get right into it. Let me read it first, and then I'll highlight a few things about it. Sonnet 41. Those pretty wrongs that liberty commits, when I am sometime absent from thy heart, thy beauty and thy years full well befits, for still temptation follows where thou art. Gentle thou art, and therefore to be won. Beauteous thou art, therefore to be assailed. And when a woman woos, what woman's son will sourly leave her till she have prevailed? Ay me! But yet thou mightst my seat forbear, and chide thy beauty and thy straying youth, who lead thee in their riot even there, where thou art forced to break a twofold truth. Hers, by thy beauty tempting her to thee. Thine, by thy beauty being false to me. So the first quatrain, those pretty wrongs, and those pretty wrongs is kind of just like a bitchy little way of sort of excusing, saying they're not that big of a deal, those pretty little wrongs. But in fact, it's sort of like a little bit of a dig. Those pretty wrongs that liberty commits, your freedom to go about and do whatever you want, those pretty wrongs that liberty commits, when I am sometime absent from thy heart, when you're not thinking about me, whatever you do, okay. Those pretty wrongs, thy beauty and thy years full well befits, for still temptation follows where thou art. So you're young, you're gorgeous, you're full of lusty energy, as I well know. So it's almost to be expected that you're going to go out and sow your wild oats. Quatrain 2 is saying basically, look at you, everybody wants you, of course they do. It's not even your fault, you hunk of burning love. Or is it? Quatrain 2, gentle thou art, and therefore to be won. Beauteous thou art, therefore to be assailed. Not, by the way, to be wooed, but to be assailed, as if it's a much more vigorous kind of wooing. And when a woman woos, what woman's son will sourly leave her till she have prevailed? And I'll talk about this till she have prevailed in a minute. Many editors say she, but many other editors say he, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Gentle thou art, therefore to be won. Beauteous thou art, therefore to be assailed. And when a woman woos, what woman's son will sourly leave her till she have prevailed? So in the Penguin version, which is what I'm reading, and in the Signet version also, they both have she in that line 8. But in Stephen Booth and in Edmondson and Wells and in Don Patterson, they all have he. And I actually prefer he as well. So I'll change this to say, gentle thou art, and therefore to be won. Beauteous thou art, and therefore to be assailed. When a woman woos, what woman's son will sourly leave her till he have prevailed? And also, by the way, that's what's in the 1609 quarto, is the he. So I don't know why they change it to she. Perhaps they think it sounds better, or perhaps they think it makes more sense. But to me, it's having he in there is much more sly. It turns the situation on its head. The poem starts out by seeming to excuse the lover, who is male, we find out, but it's all her fault. The second person with whom he's cheating, the second quatrain is as if saying, well, it's all her fault for wooing you. But if he prevails, it's almost as if the narrator is saying that she has made you so horny with her wooing that finally you convince her to go through with a full confirmation. And then in that case, it's your fault, buddy. You're the one who prevailed. She just, was wooing. You went through with it. So it fits also with the chiding of the lover, which we'll see later on, for being false to me in the next, the third quatrain and the couplet. So when a woman woos, what woman's son will sourly leave her till she have prevailed? Ay me! But yet thou mightst my seat forbear, and chide thy beauty and thy straying youth, who lead thee in their riot, even there, where thou art forced to break a twofold truth. Now, this second quatrain, gentle thou art, therefore to be won, beauteous thou art, therefore to be assailed, it's quite nice, and it flows very melodically. It's very playful. It's almost kind of fun sounding. And then we get to this full stop, I me, that kind of slows the progress of everything. I me, but, and it's a beautiful but yet thou mightst my seat forbear. Now, seat, let's think about that for a moment. Seat could be the place that I have for you in my heart, or it could be my sexual rights over you because, we're together and it's my spot, not hers. Or it could literally be my seat, my sexual parts, either, a penis, a vagina, or an anus, or what have you. So, thou mightst my seat forbear, or another word would be spare. You could spare me by blaming your beauty and your youth and your unbounded horniness to cheat. It's not your fault, you poor baby, it's your nature's fault. You could chide thy beauty and thy straying youth. Yeah, okay, it's your nature who lead thee in their riot, even there, to screw around with someone else, where thou art forced to break a twofold truth. Hers by thy beauty tempting her to thee, thine by thy beauty being false to me. So this, thou mightst my seat forbear, could mean it's just your nature, it's not your fault, I get it, no big deal. You could spare me by blaming your beauty on this, or just spare me. Because really, you could have done more. You could do more to control yourself. And you know that, and I know that. Because you didn't, and then we get the couplet, you've broken two, you've been unfaithful twice. By tempting her with your beauty to have an affair with a cad like you, and mostly, and last word, because the last word of the poem is me, lastly, you've used that beauty like a cad with her to cheat on me. You're mine, all mine. And I do believe that the he in line 8, I do believe that the he in line 8 is a he and not a she. I know sometimes it gets confusing around here, but in Sonnet 41, many of us have voted and we're choosing he. Now, Don Patterson thinks that Sonnet 41 is dull. I do not. I disagree with him wholeheartedly. I think it's a nice, clear, easily understood poem, and it's exactly where it needs to be if we consider it in a series after Sonnet 40, which is just like love, 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 but you don't know what the heck he's talking about at any point. You get a little dizzy and you don't know what's going on. Here, it's a clear relation of what is exactly going on, and it fits quite nicely so that after that dizzying sonnet of 40, you get 41, and you're kind of able to reorient yourself. Don Patterson also says something about Sonnet 41 and the famous backward acrostic spelling out the name of the tavern in Southwark where all three would gather. And I have no idea what he's talking about. I've tried to figure out what he's talking about. I've looked in other scholarly places and nobody else seems to know what he's talking about. Perhaps it's a joke, but if any of you can see some sort of backward acrostic in Sonnet 41 spelling out the name of a tavern in Southwark, please let me know. So that's 41, and 41 is paired with 42 because with 40 and 41 and 42 are all three together, as it should be. It's a love triangle. Sonnet 42, let's just get right into it. Sonnet 42, continuing directly from Sonnet 41. That thou hast her, it is not all my grief, and yet it may be said, I loved her dearly. That she hath thee is of my wailing chief, a loss in love that touches me more nearly. Loving offenders, thus I will excuse ye. Thou dost love her because thou know'st I love her, and for my sake even so doth she abuse me, suffering my friend for my sake to approve her. If I lose thee, my loss is my love's gain, and, losing her, my friend hath found that loss. Both find each other, and I lose both twain, and both for my sake lay on me this cross. But here's the joy. My friend and I are one. Sweet flattery. Then she loves but me alone. So we go from the spinning bed in the Hall of Mirrors in Sonnet 40 to a rather sedate little merry-go-round in Sonnet 41 to what seems like the bumper cars in Sonnet 42, where it seems that Shakespeare, or the narrator, has gotten so busy, so dizzy. He's gotten busy for sure, but he's gotten dizzy while getting busy. And he's so dizzy that he seems to think that the entire world revolves around him and him alone. So in Quarto 1, it's pretty clear that thou hast her, it is not all my grief, and yet it may be said that I loved her dearly. Also note the progression of tenses. That thou hast her, which is present tense, it may be said that I loved her, past tense, dearly. That she hath thee, present tense, is my wailing chief. And then a loss in love that touches me more nearly. Basically saying, I don't really care that she cheated on me. I care that you cheated on me with her. That's my problem. I'm upset that you cheated on me, with her. You're the one I care about. She's the side piece. You're the one I care about. But then we get to the future tense in the second quarto. Loving offenders, thus I will excuse thee. So it's future tense. I'll excuse thee, as we travel around and see that the narrator is the center of the universe. Thou dost love her because thou knowest I love her. You only love her because I'm the one, I started it first. I got her, so you want her. And for my sake, even so, doth she abuse me. Suffering my friend, that's you, you're my friend. You're my friend. For my sake, to approve her. And for approve, you could substitute, I suppose, or any other sexual term that you might that might be to your liking. I have many, but that's the one we'll go with. If I lose thee, my loss is my love's gain. So if I lose you to her, that's not going to be any good. And losing her, my friend hath found that lost. I'm sorry, this is the third quatrain. So the second quatrain, we see that the narrator is the center of the universe. The third quatrain, if I lose thee, my loss is my love's gain, and losing her, my friend hath found that loss. Okay, you two are messing around, but really, she's doing it, you're doing it, you're both doing it because I'm the center of it. You're only doing it to get a piece of me, even more of a piece of me than you already have. But both find each other, and I lose both twain, and both for my sake lay on me this cross. Okay, I don't mind that you're messing around with her. And, of course you shouldn't mind that I'm messing around with her too. But what I do mind is the idea that perhaps you two will just not continue just messing around with each other, but you'll drop me completely, because, I mean, I'm the one. You two are not the one. Don't make yourself, don't abandon me and leave me alone and go off with you two together, because that just would not be right. But I know that's not going to happen, because here's the couplet. Here's the joy. My friend and I are one. Sweet flattery, then she loves but me alone. Because you and I are one flesh, one body. We are one. She's messing around with you, but she's actually messing around with me. So she loves me alone. She doesn't love you. She loves me because you and I are one. She's doing it with you, but she's really doing it with me too, because you and I are one. So, okay. Now, if that's not delusional, I don't know how else to describe it. But also, in Sonnet 42, of the 14 lines of the sonnet, either I or me appears in 13 of the 14 lines. So it's a completely self-centered sonnet. And it's pretty interesting to see it come to this point where it's this seems like a menage a trois, but it's a love triangle. And then 41, the jealousy comes in, and then 42 comes the delusion of what's actually at stake here. Infidelity really is messy. So because of the preponderance of gendered pronouns here, we do know that the first lover, the narrator, actually, I don't know that we know that the narrator is either male or female. We know that the first lover, or the friend, is male, and the second lover is female. And it's possible, if we say that the narrator is male, it's possible that they're just best buddies, that they're not in any way sexually involved. But think about that. If you found out that your best buddy was messing around with your girlfriend, there wouldn't be a sonnet saying, "You're the one I love, she's just a side piece." There'd be a lot more going on here. And so it's juicy enough as it is, but I like the idea. My story is that it is two males and the third person is a female. So the narrative thus far, up to Sonnet 42, is what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Now, if this were a novel, I would say this is a pretty good moment of crisis. Infidelity, while not terribly nice to live through, makes a good story. And the delusion in Sonnet 42 is part kind-heartedness, part libertarian, hippy-dippy, anything goes, and part fatal attraction stalker material, where I'm the center of the universe and you really love me and you're mine, and it could get a little scary. But we'll see what happens in the future. Now, the dramatic possibilities for this are endless. Edmondson and Wells say that Valentine in Two Gentlemen of Verona would be a good place for this sonnet, but I've never read Two Gentlemen of Verona, and perhaps I'll get to that for ShakeTube next year. If you have any thoughts or comments about Sonnet 40, 41, or 42 separately, let me know. If you have an idea about what you think about them as a trio, let me know that too. But one thing you can remember until we meet again is that even though you are the center of the universe, every once in a while, lift yourself out of yourself, look around, see the wonders that are in the world, and pay attention to them for a change. Until we meet again, I'm Tootight Lautrec.